This is a listener question. And this
Right.
is a listener of Tybee Island. I'm not going to use her name because we don't have permission to use her name. But it says, we have a home in a neighborhood where the HOA was never established, but there were always covenants, conditions, and restrictions. There is a developer coming in and building homes now and wanting to establish an HOA after 10 years. Do the current residents have to join the HOA if they form the HOA? That's a doozy of a question, isn't it?
Boy, it does. And the time frame makes it just about impossible to give them any kind of clear answer. So covenants, conditions, and restrictions, some people would call that declaration. It goes by a lot of different names depending on the neighborhood, but it's a land document. It's like your title to your land, to your house. It's a land document that sets forth the conditions and the restrictions that you as an owner agree to. And those conditions are tied to the land. And when you purchase the property, you statutorily agree to abide by those conditions and restrictions. And the deal is that the corporation is chartered with the task of enforcing the covenants.
Okay.
That's why the corporation exists. It's to enforce the covenants and provide a structure. So I think for the woman who lives in Tybee Island, when she says the Homeowners Association was never formed, I'm speculating, but I think it's more likely that the original builder wrote covenants and created a homeowners association, and then it went dormant. That's the most likely thing that happened. Now, it's also possible that the developer created covenants and never created a corporate entity to enforce them, which meant what the developer intended was for every homeowner to enforce the covenants against their neighbors of their own will. That never works. That never, ever works. The challenge for your homeowner is going to be to find out what the history looks like and to have the developer's attorney do the research into if there was a corporation created, what is it going to take to stand it back up on its feet and get it running again? It could be that they've expired and lapsed and there's nothing there anymore. If they've gotten by for 10 years and nobody's enforced anything, I don't know why they would want to start one at this point in time. I mean, I'm really not sure why a developer would want to go down that road.
Ultimately, they probably didn't even renew their corporate registration, which is a requirement to do every year in the state of Georgia. So it could be that didn't even exist for 8 years or 10 years or however long it was. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And that could be very problematic. If you fail to renew your corporate registration for 2 or 3 years, the Secretary of State will let you just walk in and pay this kind of hefty fee.
Yep.
And get your corporation reestablished.
Yeah.
But if you go too long, they say, no, that's deceased. You've got to start all over again, apply for a new name, go through a new set of articles of incorporation. But the bigger problem is for the Tybee Island woman is what's the status of those covenants? The deed for her property will have a reference to those covenants. It always says subject to, and it spells it out. It'll give the name that the original developer declared for the association. And all she has to do is go to her county clerk, and actually she doesn't even have to go. You can just go online, okay, to the Georgia Court Clerk's site and look it up generically, just search for it. And she can find those covenants. And she can also go to the Secretary of State's website and look for the status. She can search for the name of her association and find what its status was, how long it was in effect, or whether it's dissolved. There's kind of 2 roads for her to go down here. One of them is she and her neighbors want to be part of a homeowners association. They could probably just sit down with the developer and say, hey, open up, tell us what's going on here. I mean, they must have gotten some communications or some rumors or something. Just sit down and talk to the individual and find out what the development company is doing, right? If they don't want to be part of it, they're going to need a lawyer. Okay, there's no question about it, because the developer is going down this road and they have some reason to believe they can do this because it costs money and it takes time, and they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't think they could.